So, how did I begin getting into real estate? It's very clear. When you are focusing and paying attention to those who are living life on a different level, not that you aspire to be them, but you want some of those experiences for your own life. Much of them, in some way, shape, or form, have real estate in their portfolio. They have real estate somewhere in their portfolio. And I was like, how can I tap into real estate? When I was going into real estate, I was like, man, you mean to tell me I have to, number one, get the acumen and understanding, then save all this money? Do I need money? Do I really need money? I see all these things that say I don't need any money or any credit to get started. I'm gonna tell you right now, yes, you do. I'm naive in the sense of I, I believe I can do anything that I set my mind out to do. I really do. I push past fear. I push past being tired, which I'm tired right now, but I push past all that. And I do it as a part of my mental makeup. I went back in the lab maybe 6 to 8 years of relearning, studying, saving, telling myself no a lot, telling my mom, my siblings, no, I can't go, telling colleagues, no, you can't go. And in doing so, that gave me the power to stand on my own 2 feet. And once you prove it yourself that you can be different, you can stand on your own 2 feet. Now you start to play a different game. If you're doing what the 99% are doing, you're doing it wrong. And so you got to understand what the 1%ers are doing. I literally stopped what I was doing and I went into the lab. Meaning in the lab, I went into every type of book on finances. I went into every type of book on mentality or mind shifts, mind growth, neuroscience, you name it. You rewire your entire being, like your entire existence. Everything that you once thought was important, it is not. Everything that you once thought you needed, you do not. And what's crazy is you become the outlier. You become the weird one around everybody else. There's more of those things where you stick out like a sore thumb in a good way. This is just me. I hate when people say, I work so hard, I deserve this. I don't like the word deserve because I literally work for everything that I got. I inspire. I try to plant seeds everywhere. And whenever that seed flourishes, whenever it breaks ground, okay, I worked all this time. I worked the whole week. I deserve to be able to spend my money how I want. That's cool. If you do that, don't complain in the same voice. In the same situation, don't complain. And don't get mad at the individual that's creating something that you call lucky. Don't get mad at him because he or she is doing what they set out to do intentionally. When I say do the hard thing, you see people, it's like, oh, I don't want to do the real estate game. Okay, you ain't got to do the real estate game if it's not for you. But I chose it because it's something that's been around for a very long time. And I think it's going to be something that's going to be around for a very long time. When you stop food, you might stop real estate. Man, that's how I equate it. And so when you look at those around you playing the game at a high level and you're trying to tap into something that's hard, you got to go through the classes. You got to pay the price of admission to get that ticket to that game. My mentors told me this, say, man, I'm on the other side of the fence, Kendrick, and the grass is greener. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Talks with Ken. I'm your host, Kendrick. This is a place where motivation lives, inspiration thrives, and personal growth resides. Before I jump into what we're going to discuss today, I want to talk to our newer guests and newer audience. If you have not been a part of the Talks with Ken community, this is the place where I utilize my own life experiences and and advice and experience that comes from those who mentored me. I just want you guys to succeed. I want everyone to succeed in their own way. And I utilize this platform to do so, to inspire change and get you guys to dare to dream and believe in yourself. Whatever it is you want to do, homemaker, entrepreneur, car salesman, Home Depot clerk, whatever you want to do. I just want to inspire you to go and do you to the fullness. And also, if you haven't seen already, I have a new installment in which I bring inspirational and people who are achieving in life at a high level in all areas. And y'all, I'm loving it. And I got some guests lined up to bring to you all. And I got a little something to share with y'all myself. I have been busy. Of course, I've always been busy, but the last 2 weeks I have been busy. Life been life. But of course, you got to get broader shoulders to carry it all, in which I look forward to a challenge. Just like you, I am human and I have to make sure my schedule can fit those type of obstacles. I'm going to just say obstacles, okay? But, and also, if you have not subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and do so. I've seen some of you guys go out on your own journey. I start to follow you all on your own journey, whether that's starting a new workout program, new mentorships programs. Man, I'm seeing you. I'm seeing y'all and I'm loving it. I'm a part of you just as much as you're a part of me. That's how we change collectively our community. And so I want you guys to tap in. So hit that subscribe button today. If you have not, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. All right. And let's get into the topic, y'all. Let's get into today's topic. I hope you guys look. I'm coming to you in the morning. I typically do this at night, but I'm coming to you in the morning, and I hope you guys got some coffee. I hope you guys got your morning pep talk in, and however you getting your day started. But I'm glad you getting it started with me. Okay. Recently, I have posted on social media that me, my wife, and our business partners, which just so happened to be my brother-in-law and my sister, we have completed our very first developmental project. So it's we bought 5 properties in a certain area, and we're building 5 ground up builds. And a lot of you all have been asking, how did I go about doing so? How did I go about doing so? And I don't know if I can cover everything today, but I will give you the general portion of how I went about getting my process started. And after that, we'll probably have to do a part 2, maybe even a part 3 to get into the specifics of this entire process. How did I go about doing this entire process? Because it's kind of lengthy, but I think today is very important that I attack the biggest portion of how I got this process started. And it's very much attacking your minds, the mind. So, how did I begin getting into real estate? How did I want to get into real estate? Or why did I want to get into real estate more so? It's very clear. To me, it's very clear. When you are focusing and paying attention to those who are living life on a different level, not that you aspire to be them, but you want some of those experiences for your own life. Much of them, in some way, shape, or form, have real estate in their portfolio. Yeah. I don't care how you say it, they have real estate somewhere in their portfolio. And I was like, how can I tap into real estate? I didn't want to be a realtor, even though a lot of people say, man, you could be a really good realtor. You like to talk, you like people. I get that. But I wanted to get into real estate the investment way. And why the investment way? And, first off, why did I want to get into real estate the investor way? One of my main mentors told me, you got to chase the system. If you want to have wealth and time on a higher level, you have to build a system around your life. If you cannot earn an income without these, without your fingers, without the use of your hands, you have not built a system that's conducive for your wealth creation. And so he said, "Man, you're chasing the wrong things." And this gentleman has many, many commercial and residential properties under his belt, and he's doing it at a very high level. And it's good to have somebody that sees something in you, and they're trying to give you advice to get to where they're at. And going back to my original statement, I had to have real estate somewhere in my portfolio, right? And with my mindset shift, coming from a consumer to a producer, or coming from a consumer to a creator, my mindset had to change somewhere. And that's the hard part, because what happens is everyone around you is so used to doing the same thing. Everybody around you is so used to doing the same thing, spending their money on the same stuff, going on the same type of vacations, kids joining into the same sports, enjoying the struggle together. Meaning, it's beautifying the struggle. Yeah, you're like, oh, you think that's life. You say this is life. And a little side note, this is why I beg of you to read literature. If you don't have any kind of mentor that's going to talk to you, I beg of you to read literature to change and rewire the way you think. Because if you're doing it's one book, and I'm sorry, y'all, I don't be knowing which books that I really be quoting or coming from, but it's a lot of books that I be reading. Some of those books overlap in the same subject matter. So please show me some grace on that. But it was a book that I was reading, and it's like, if you're doing what the 99% are doing, you're doing it wrong. And so you got to understand what the 1%ers are doing. And that's what I did over the years. I literally stopped what I was doing, and I went into the lab. Meaning the lab, I mean the books. I went into every type of book on finances. I went into every type of book on mentality or mind shifts, mind growth, neuroscience, you name it. I was in it. And basically, you rewire your entire being, like your entire existence. You rewire everything. Everything that you once thought was important, it is not. Everything that you once thought you needed, you do not. And what's crazy is you become the outlier. You become the weird one around everybody else. Not saying that I'm quote unquote weird, but it's more of those things where you stick out like a sore thumb in a good way. And many of the individuals that I've already interviewed on this platform, you'll see they pretty much had that same type of experience. They stick out in a good way. And you got to be okay with doing things against the grain. You got to be okay with going against the grain in every facet to get to where I'm getting. And now what happens when you're trying to cultivate something out of nothing? So I started reading literature, changing my mind, meeting more. This one individual mentor, having other three mentors total, but meeting my other two mentors, and they're saying the same thing. You got to tell yourself no. In order to begin something, you got to tell yourself no a lot. Yeah, you may be working, you may even have a higher income, but you can be broke at a high level. You can definitely be broke at a high level. You are maintaining what you currently have. And I want to piggyback off of one of the episodes that I had with my counterpart AJ Gladney, who is a financial expert or planner for everyone around him. He mentioned that y- you got to have enough assets around you. Like you might can afford it, but can you really afford it? And I know exactly what he was talking about because that was me once in the blue moon. And I'm not over here trying to preach to y'all or nothing like that. I'm not trying to do that and say, oh, don't do this, don't do this. One of my biggest slogans is try quick, fail fast. That's really what I did. That's how I ended up getting into the bulk of this real estate game. And what I mean by try quick, fail fast. So when we were because in school you don't want to get wrong anything wrong on a test. You don't want to get something wrong on a test. You can't ask for help on a test, and I think that's one of the biggest hindrances in our growth process. We feel like we got to do everything on our own by ourselves. We got to be the one to get the answer instead of having a team of individuals to get the answer. Now, before I jump into the whole team aspect of how I created it, I want to get into more of the mindset. So the try quick, fail fast. So when me and my wife, when we had purchased our very first property, our very first personal residential property, we stayed in it for about 5 years, ended up selling that property, right? Because in that property, we were doing what everybody else was doing. We finally got a home. We didn't have a white picket fence, but we had a nice home, raising our kids in it. And, it felt good. It felt good for the short term, but what happens is you got to go to Disney World. You got to get the new car. You got to get the new bats. You got to get the new cleats. You got to go out to eat a lot with certain friend groups and stuff like that. Well, we didn't have a lot of friend groups, but those who are on the teams with our kids playing sports throughout the years and doing that, yeah, we could afford it. We could afford it. But and then you get so used to it, right? You get so used to it, and I don't know if y'all think like this, but I do. I'm like, man, got to be something more. And this is early on. I like this. This has to be something more to life than just doing this. But right now, we're kind of just existing beautifully, right? I say existing beautifully, but not like on purpose. And that's the difference. Yes, were we able to pay our bills and stuff? Yep. Were we able to go on some vacations? Maybe one, maybe one, and that was a stretch because we had a lot of kids to do. We had a lot of it, and the mindset shift had to go into deprivation. You have to deprive yourself of your social norms. You have to tell yourself no a lot. And the thing is that I hate when people, this is just me. I hate when people say, I work so hard, I deserve this. You deserve, okay. All right. I don't like the word deserve because me, I literally work for everything that I got. I inspire, I try to plant seeds everywhere. And whenever that seed flourishes, whenever it breaks ground, okay. All right. Yeah. And somebody say, yeah, you did it because you deserved it, but I don't say that. I don't like that whole deserve thing. So, but yeah, I deserve, I worked all this time. I worked the whole week. I deserve to be able to spend my money how I want. That's cool. If you do that, don't complain in the same voice. In the same situation, don't complain. And don't get mad at the individual that's creating something that you call lucky. Don't get mad at him because he or she is doing what they set out to do intentionally. And I want to also talk about AJ Gladdy on this one. You know, this brother did not have a TV in his house for 10 years. That's very intentional. If y'all haven't checked that video out, go and check that video out. Hopefully I can post it somewhere in this, at the bottom of this video. But that's very intentional. And everybody on the outside is looking at like this gentleman, how is he doing so much? Well, because he don't waste time. And so once you gear your mind to say, I'm not going to waste time, I'm not going to waste energy or effort in things that don't benefit me. I mean, and I know people who are 50, 60 years old that are still wasting time in existence, but complaining about what they currently have going on. And you are the key. Like you are the answer to change that situation. You are. So, when I say talk about the mind, you have to deprive yourself of your social norms. You gotta start saving. In this situation, you have to start saving money. Like I ain't got no money to say. Well, if you got enough money to go buy a 12 pack, or you got enough money to go buy some fishing gear, you got enough money to go buy, some new shoes, you got enough money to set aside for your future. And I don't care how small it is. You got enough money. And that's something that I had to get over. I was like, man, I read this one book, like, man, invest a dollar a day. Then it's like, if you can't do a dollar a day, do 50 cents. You gotta start small. Like you not gonna start with it at the end. You're not gonna start. You're not gonna win a marathon waking up tomorrow. You never trained for it. You just not. So you got to get your mind in a sense of deprivation and being okay with that. And then once you start to stack. Now, how did I do that? No, yeah. I know I'm jumping around, y'all, but how did I do that when we were trying to stack? Very, very, very plain. Me and my wife in our very first house. I asked her. I said, "Oh, once I had this feeling of is this it for us? Is this what we want our life to look like?" She was like, "No." She said it. When she said it, I was like, "You know what? Execute plan. Let's go ahead and change this thing up." And I did that personally by reading Dave Ramsey. I read Dave Ramsey to understand how, and I tell everybody this. I kind of go against some of the stuff that Dave Ramsey teaches now because I've matured in a certain way. But what he taught was just the simplicity of how money works. And I vouch anybody who say they money keeps running away from them or they don't see money, go and get Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover. I ain't getting paid for none of this stuff. I'm just saying it helped me in my life. That really helped me in a way that brought me back to, basically elementary school to of money. Well, 1 plus 1 got to equals 2. 2 plus 2 got to equals 4. That kind of a deal. So, just saving a little bit. Number one, getting out of debt. You gotta really get out of debt and be focused and intentional on getting out of debt because you can't create from a state of stress. I don't care how you say it. And you can't create with no money in your pocket. And that's when I sum it up on most videos. You have to get above survival. Once you get above survival, you can dare to dream a little bit. So, how did we get above survival? So, I utilized Dave Ramsey. That was also part of changing my mind and looking at how money worked, psychology of money. And I can give y'all a whole list of books that I typically read to get that I got to that point at that time. Going back a little bit, I started with seeing all those individuals around me that I aspired to live like, and they had real estate in their portfolio. And then so I was like, well, I don't have any money. And I have money, but I don't have enough money saved up to get in the real estate game. So what did I do? I did those little talk seminars. Again, this is part of try quick, fail fast. It will reveal to you if it's for you or not. But you got to take that L, loss or lesson, however you want to say it. I say lesson. And I was doing the wholesaling thing. Yeah, so like, man, you can start with no money down, or you ain't have to have good credit and all this kind of stuff. So I ended up looking around for real estate opportunities. I read some real estate literature, and I started to see a little bit of what I didn't know. And then I put myself in venues with upstate career meetings. And career meetings is nothing more than investors, bankers, and realtors and bird doggers, which I was. You go into like a hotel to Hyatt or something like that, and they have these quarterly meetings or monthly meetings to bring new properties to the table for other individuals to buy or invest, almost like swapping out stuff. So anyway, so I ended up doing that. Yeah, I had some successful deals, but It's funny because those around me who are really talking about it, saying that they were able to successfully do deals. When I did my first one, it was this individual. I'm not gonna say his name, but he bought my deals. And he's like, you know what? You're the very first person to realistically succeed in doing one of these wholesale deals with me. Even though individuals around me in my circle were saying that I did many of these. I said, no, those guys haven't done anything yet. That's why it's so important to run your own race, because you can listen to somebody's information, you can say or think that they're living a certain way or a life, and they're not. And then when you get there, you're like, oh man, so I'm really doing it. So me, I live in the state of naivety. I mean naivety. Am I saying that right? So I'm naive in the sense of I I believe I can do anything that I set my mind out to do. I really do. I push past fear. I push past being tired, which I'm tired right now, but I push past all that, and I do it as a part of my mental makeup. And so I tried the wholesale thing and it worked. I mean, it did. The wholesale thing, it worked. But it didn't work in the way that I wanted. Meaning you're only going to convert one of 20 deals. One of 20 deals. But number one, you got to find those 20 deals. And out of those 20 deals, you probably got to have 40 cold calls, meaning those signs that say we buy houses, stuff like that. Yeah, I did it. We buy houses, going out in the wee hours of the night with my children, and they video recorded me putting out these extension signs, and which is good memories, and my boys get a chance to see that type of effort behind the scenes, whether consciously or unconsciously. They're gonna see like, oh, my dad was doing X, Y, and Z. So yeah, so I ended up doing the wholesale thing, and I converted some deals, and that was good. But the time, and this time, my boys were very, very busy with their young adult life or their youthful life, and I was away. I mean, I was away a lot. I would be at a football game, going back to the car, getting calls on a deal. Long story short, when I started to complete those investment deals, individuals were making way, way more off the deal that I brought them, and I was getting a check for like two to $5,000 or whatever it was. And I was like, man, you know what? I came to the point of realization that I need to do more to get to that point. I have to get to that point, because I'm getting $2,000 to $3,000 and they getting 60 to $100,000 off of these deals and flips. But you got to create that type of life that's conducive for that type of growth. And so I went back in the lab, y'all. I went back in the lab maybe 6 to 8 years of relearning, studying, saving, telling myself no a lot, not going on a lot of trips on purpose, telling my mom, my siblings, no, I can't go, telling colleagues, no, you can't go. And in doing so, that gave me the power to stand on my own 2 feet. Like, no, no, I can't do it. I'm trying to establish and create something new. Just like that. And once you prove it yourself that you can be different, you can stand on your own 2 feet. Now you start to play a different game, right? And so that mindset, that deprivation of telling myself no, that retooling my mind, saying that I thought this was the right way to live. No, this isn't the right way to live. Or it might work for somebody, but this is not what I'm trying to get in. And so what happened was we ended up selling one property, right? Understanding, that property that I had a lot of mental growth. I called it the school, man, because it was definitely my first house was definitely the school. Like that changed my trajectory of where I'm at, and it gave me new eyes, if you will. And so once we went ahead and closed and sold on that first one, that our first residential property, I was like, wow, you know what? People can make money like that. People can really make money like that. Oh my God. Okay. And so I saw that process work once personally, right? And then so with that house sold so quick, me and my wife, we had to move into a two bedroom apartment, right? It sold so quick we couldn't find nothing that we really, really wanted in that time frame. So this is the part with being uncomfortable. You gotta be uncomfortable. You gotta be okay with being uncomfortable. As long as you have your roadmap. People say they have a roadmap, but once you have a plan, this is what it looked like. This is what it feel like. It's like, okay, all right, we're gonna sell this property, but then we gotta move into another place. Oh, we can't really find a place now. At this point, you can say doom and gloom. Oh, we shouldn't have did that, right? But or you decide to say, you know what, this is just a part of it. This is a part of it. We're gonna be fine. And so it's not what we're used to, but we're going to be fine. And so in this situation, we moved into the two-bedroom apartment. All bills are paid off. We had some money saved, but we got a good bit from our personal residence that we only stayed in 5 years. And so once we did that, ground level, everything's paid off, credit good, you start to be like, oh my gosh, hold up. I ain't never experienced this. Where do we go from here? I have never experienced this. When you can just basically not buy what you want, but you can kind of do a lot of what you want. You ain't got no bills. You ain't got a home yet because you're renting an apartment. But you can pretty much go and do what you want to do with the funds that you currently have. And that was the first time I think in my adult life I was like, man, this is amazing. You mean to tell me? And then one of the things I'm gonna tell y'all this: seeing is believing. So one of the things that we did, me and my wife collectively, we got a 24 by 36 billboard and we drew out a thermometer or we printed a thermometer, right? And we had little tally marks when we get our first 5,000, 10,000, 40,000, 50,000, all the way up to like 200,000, right? And we would scribble it in, right? We would scribble it in. And so we had that kind of posted up in our closet along with the safety we had. And so one of Dave Ramsey's biggest things that he advocate for is spending in cash, right? And so when you spend in cash, it gives you that emotional bond to your money. You get to see it. And so that's what we did. We had some money in the bank, but we wanted to see it. And once we saw it, it became a game. We literally had our safe, and then we had our 24 by 36 board with the thermometer, and we would color it in red. And it felt so good to see that level keep going, keep going, keep going. Now, what happens was we were looking like we didn't have any money, right? But we were probably the most comfortable we've ever been in our adult life with two kids. And so at that point, what happens though? Like, all right, this two bedroom is not going to really work. We need to get back into a house. So long story short, we ended up finding another solution. We moved into a town because we weren't too comfortable in that two-bedroom apartment, of course, right? But of course, this is the first time that we like, man, we can do this if we want. We ain't got to. We can do this if we want. We don't have to. And so we was like, all right, let's just go and do this. Move it to a town while we're building our other home. And so we did that, right? And so during this process, I'm kind of understanding how money and the flow of money works and seeing the bigger picture like, okay, I've, I've rented a property, I've bought and sold a property, I'm renting another property. Now, this is the process, y'all. Let me tell you how these two instances work for me. It really blew my mind. It really didn't get me until I was almost about to go into the house that we sold previously, right before I'm living in this one. Was the owner of the house that we were renting was living with his parents. Yeah, he was living with his parents. He was old, I think maybe 10, 15 years older. He was aiding and assisting his parents because, I think they were a little bit older, very, very, very sweet individuals. I don't really see them today, but I see them on social media. And that was a very big part. So if you listening, that was a very big part of me understanding how life should be lived. And so thank you. But this individual had, I think, at the time, like 30 properties or so. I'm like, hold on. So this guy that we're renting from is living in the property with his parents. What you mean? You ain't gotta have a big house on the hill? You what are you talking about? You ain't living in a mansion? Oh, and you driving like an older car? Okay. All right. I mean, if that worked for you, that's fine, but that ain't gonna work for me. Right? That's kind of how I was thinking. Then the second time, I go and when we moved out of we sold our house, moved into a two-bedroom apartment, left that one, and then moved to a townhome. The gentleman that we were renting from there, he owned three of those townhome properties. Three. And so second addition to me is like, wow, you're not living on a big house on a hill. You're not driving a Benz or a Bentley, but we're renting from you and we look good, right? We look good. And I think that those two situations, the people that we were currently renting from during those times were living in situations the same or even less than us. I remember that one guy, the second guy that we rented from, he came into our property and he seen all the furniture that we had. And he was like, I ain't gonna give you the accent because I give it away. But he's like, wow, all the furniture. Looking like we were millionaires. You got so much furniture. Then we walked past his house. They're chilling in their garage. Yeah. Chilling in their garage with just a table. No table in in the kitchen. They was eating at the counter or eating on the floor. Right. Now I will say this individual, he was from a different country and he moved to the US, but he wasn't so Americanized to be brainwashed to think that what we need, we really don't need. And he came into my house and he has three rental properties that we were staying in. And I was like, wow. And here I am trying to save to get me this big mansion, quote unquote big mansion. But those two situations really changed the way that I thought about life and real estate. So now, for those individuals that are really stuck and saying, I really just don't have any money. I'm just trying to tell you, change your mind first. Change your mind first. And if you really don't have no money, like meaning don't have no money for food, gas, or paying your rent or mortgage, okay, you might need to get more money. You might need to get another job. You might need to do something else. But I'm telling you, you can probably change just one way that you think, and your entire life will change. It'll change. It'll change, and you gotta be okay with being uncomfortable. You gotta be okay with just being different than everybody around you. If you can be okay with being different than everybody around you, man, I'm surprised you ain't got this. I'm surprised you ain't going on this. I'm surprised we can't do okay. Just say okay and smile. Just say okay and smile. I tell individuals around me, it's like my goal in life. I'm just giving you a visual. My goal in life is to be on the front court at an NBA championship game, and everybody's like, "Who is that guy? Who is that guy on the front floor? Like who is that guy?" Yeah. That's right. I don't want nobody to really know what I got going on. I'm just living for me. I'm living for me. So you have to be in that type of mental space to change your situation. Now, I'm telling y'all this and I'm berating this point because this is what changed my situation to be able to get into development. And so for those of you who are thinking about why did you go into real estate per se? There are a whole bunch of different avenues. Yes, there are. I've done investments in like crypto. I still do investments like crypto. I got my 401k. I got ETFs, certain levels of insurance that give me a dividend or not dividend, but a return. I do those things, but I have seen over the years those things can be easily manipulated. They can go up, they can go down, but they can be manipulated. Food, besides having food, you have to have a shelter. I mean, I don't see many caves around here. So you got to have some type of shelter, whether it's a rolling on wheels, whether it's a tiny home, whether it's a mansion, whether it's an apartment, whether it's a town, whatever. You are outside of food. You have to have somewhere to stay. I don't care. And then you look around, it's like, man, yeah, it's very hard to get into the real estate market. Da, da, da. And the interest rates are so high. Da, 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 da. Okay, while you're paying attention to all of that negative talk, the individuals who are operating at a high level that you are renting from, they're playing that game. And so it's either you're gonna play that game or you're gonna be on the outside looking in. You get a chance to choose that. And so when I was going into real estate, I was like, man, you mean to tell me I have to number one, get the acumen and understanding, then save all this money? Do I need money? Do I really need money? I see all these things that say I don't need any money or any credit to get started. I'm gonna tell you right now, yes, you do. I didn't tried it. I didn't tried it, y'all. You're gonna have to have something. I think me and my financial advisor, we were talking like, man, you at least if you're gonna do something small, on a small level, you gotta have 150 to $200,000 of just reserve capital. It's or you gotta get your hands on it somehow. Somehow. And later on I give you in a detailed situation of how you go about getting all this money for like financing and stuff for your projects. But you're gonna have to do the hard thing. And so when I say do the hard thing, you see people, it's like, oh, I don't want to do the real estate game. Okay, you ain't got to do the real estate game if it's not for you. But I chose it because it's something that's been around for a very long time. And I think it's going to be something that's going to be around for a very long time. When you stop food, you might stop real estate. Man, that's how I equate it. And so when you look at those around you playing the game at a high level and you're trying to tap into something that's hard, you gotta go through the classes. You gotta pay the price of admission to get that ticket to that game. One of my mentors told me this, say, man, I'm on the other side of the fence, Kendrick, and the grass is greener. I'm gonna tell you, it's greener. He's living it. You right? And so I understand that those who say this is just life, when times are hard and they're going out there, week to week, paying for all these nice cars, paying for these vacations, paying for nice clothes. This is just life, right? Then you look back, and then you didn't create the system or that big foundation that you thought, and you look back in your 60s, 70s, 80s, and you're like, man, I wasted all that time, effort, and money. Yeah, you were living, but were you having that good balance in between living for then and planning for your future? Because a lot of people like, there's a school of thought that I can die tomorrow. You can't take it with you. Okay. What if you don't die tomorrow? What you gonna do then? If you don't sit and plan and then live out a life that's intentional, budget intentionally, you might have some problems. I'm just telling you that. That's just being real. And so, why did I go into real estate? Real estate, I chose real estate because it's something tangible. Even if the market goes down, you still can go out there and touch it. And then when the market goes back up, you still gonna have money baked into it. And there are many avenues of real estate in which you can use and pull money from, you can leverage, you can sell, you can rent out, you can refinance, whatever you want. You can do it real estate. I studied that for years, and I was like, man, okay, this is going to be the play. This is how we're going to do it. And I don't want to be the person to bear the bad news, but everybody like, man, I got such and such in my 401k, blah 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 blah. Okay, 401k is a huge write-off for the owner of that corporation. It's a good write-off for the owner of that business or that corporation. And, yeah, everybody like, "Oh, but I don't have X, Y, and Z money when I retire." Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I mean, it is better than nothing. I'm gonna tell you that. Getting a match is better than nothing. So I'm not going against 401ks and nothing like that. I'm just saying that's not gonna save you in the end. Like, you gotta have this revolving loop of money that comes into your circle. I mean, because, markets hit, markets crash, and you lose 15 to 20% of your retirement nest egg, you start to worry. You may be fine, but mentally, you're going to start to worry. You have to create some type of system and infrastructure built around you and what you got going on that's going to kind of safeguard you in a way. Whether that's some type of business or whatever, whatever. But I chose real estate because real estate didn't have me being in it wholeheartedly. I'm not the one out there actually putting, hammer to nail. I'm actually working in the office. That's why I say I'm an entrepreneur. I'm actually working in the office while I talk to my builders, and they kind of send me screenshots of information on what's going on in the field. This was in part brought on by my mentor. You got a lot of you got kids, dog. You got kids, and I'm pretty sure you want to be present in their life. Yeah, I want to be present in their life. Coming from being a photographer as well, coming from being a photographer over 7 years, I think it's 7 years or so, I wanted to create something that didn't have to have me in it. Because again, I'm trying to create a system that I can earn income without the use of my hands. And so I was chasing the wrong thing. I was chasing the business. I was chasing money, and those things were I mean, they were coming, but I wasn't having a big enough impact. When I say impact, I wasn't having a big enough financial impact to be able to get to that level that I was trying to get to where I'm at. I can't say where I'm at now, but yeah, I'm aspiring to go here, and right now I'm like here on the mountain. Okay, now let me talk about the point of breakthrough. The point of breakthrough is when you're going into the closet, or you're in school so much, you're reading so much literature, you're around the right people, you see the right things about it, blah. Now you kinda know what to look for as the point of entry. So, when we moved out, we were in that townhouse. We moved out, from that townhouse to move into the house that we're building, and we moved into that house, that property, right? Getting it beautified, getting all the furniture and all that kinda stuff, right? I ain't gonna lie, I was like, "Man, we in a sense, wasting a lot of money for us," right? That's kinda how I felt, because my mind was so in tune on what we had going on, and I was like, "Okay." When we got there, I had already been learning, dabble in the real estate, whether it was wholesaling, reading real estate literature, talking to guys about real estate, commercial and residential. I was going through school. I was vetting myself, and little did I know people was vetting me during that process. Like, man, this guy, I've seen him on the scene a little bit. He's a part of what we do, right? Even though I really didn't have the funzos to say I was a part of what we do, but I was getting the the literacy down. I was getting my acumen together. And so when we moved to that first, I mean, that the last property we just now sold, I fell in love with just watching the market. A lot of the books said watch the market. How do you watch the market? So I was just looking at Zillow. I was liking houses, loving houses, seeing how the markets moved. I was looking at how property values increased so quick in this area, not as quick in this area. I was looking at my own financial situation. Like, man, our property is like going crazy high in equity and stuff like that in a very short time. And so when you're tuned in to what's going on around you, you can see where opportunities really lie. And what happens is during that time I was looking at the market, I fell in love with watching the market. And you look at like, oh man, yeah, if if our house goes up to X amount of dollars, we can cut some years off of this life experience to get closer to where we're trying to go. Now, again, we're trying to create a infrastructure. We're trying to create a foundation. That's what we're trying to do. And in doing so, you might have to get rid of something over here in order to get something bigger over here. But you got to have faith that you're going to do it. So what happens is most people, I'm just going to say this, when most people come into a windfall of like money or a better opportunity, you're not, if you're not set here, you're going to squander it. I mean, you're going to squander it. You're going to live lavish. You're going to do stuff that you probably shouldn't do. And then you're going to be back to ground zero. You're back to ground zero. So we sold one property and then we were in the next one that, our personal residence. And I was like, man, this is going to be a situation that can really leapfrog. You could add to. And so I was watching the market, knowing what points of entry at. And at this time, still talking with my mentor, him giving me more advice on what to do, how to get in. And I was like, man, you know what? I'm dreaming big. I got to do this. I'm dreaming big. And when you know that you know it, man, it is something in you that say, man, you got to move, pull that trigger. You ain't never done this in your life. Get uncomfortable, pull that trigger. Let's go. Let's do it. And came around, the market was very, very hot. And this is before 2020. I think it was like, yeah, it might have been 2020 or 2019. I don't know. But it was when the market was, man, anything was selling, everything was selling like hotcakes, right? And then I was in some financial talk radio and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, if you don't get into the market by this date, interest rates are going to go up. And I was looking at some of the literature that I was reading, some of the magazines that I was reading online. And all of them was like collectively saying the market's going to change drastically. And I was like, I said, hey, we might have to do something different. If the market's really going to change, we got to sell by this date. Now, this is just going to deploy to get our system together. And so you got to get, my biggest thing when I tell you, you got to get above survival. Like, man, you got to put more rubber in between the road. You got to get a little more comfortable. And you do that by doing what others aren't willing to do. That's how you do it. And then, so long story short, opportunity comes up. We end up selling our property. And they were like, man, why did you sell that big house? Why did you sell that big house? Well, that's thinking like everybody else. I got a plan. I got a plan to work, and this is part of my plan. And so what you do when you come from nothing, you are okay with newness, and that's the beauty part about it. When you come from not having a lot, not being born with a silver spoon in your mouth, you're okay with being uncomfortable in those situations because you felt that before. And this one was just a house. It wasn't the house for me. It didn't make my life. It didn't make my wife's life. Nothing like that. It wasn't. But it was definitely a big part about leapfrogging, taking years off of our financial plan. And so when you look at it in that light, in that regard, everything that we've been trained to think is normal, you gotta question it. You gotta question every darn thing. I don't care. And then, some people will say, oh man, you lucky. Oh, you looked up. No. What they don't know is that I was watching the market for years. I was in the real estate game, quote unquote, for at that point, like 8 or 9 years. 8 or 9 years. And so that was the second time that life showed me that real estate was a good play. It was a good play. And then you find everybody talking, people who are talking down about real estate, but then they're behind the back buying that same type of real estate. You watch that. I always tell my kids, you ain't gotta always listen to watch what I say, but watch what I do. When you watch those same guys and gals saying, oh, real estate market is tanking, but they're still buying real estate, or the commercial market is tanking, but they're still buying commercial real estate, do as they do. Now I do that with some financial stock market plays too. I do as they do. If they saying, "Oh, this is gonna go down," but they keep buying it, I'm gonna buy it too. That's what you gotta look at. So this episode today was mainly to get you guys to understand the mindset shift that you have to get into the game of real estate. If it ain't real estate, get into the game of your own business, get in the game of living for yourself. You have to change the way you think, change the way you look at life, change the people that are around you, change the circles that you're in. You have to dare to do different all the time. I'm telling you right now, if you're doing what everybody else around you is doing, you're doing it wrong. I can tell you that just from experience. Again, I'll be 42 this month. I'm just telling you from experience. I tried a lot. I do a lot currently. I've been in a lot of different areas, a lot of different circles. I'm not a part of a lot of circles, but my circle, I have been in a lot of different situations. And when you're really living for yourself, that's where things start to be clear. And that's also one of the hardest things to do. When you're living for yourself, it can be daunting at first. It can be scary at first. And it's when people say, nobody can walk that road or travel that road for you. Nobody can't build that road for you. You got to do it for yourself. That's daunting because all of your life you've been having help along the way. You've been having family, you've been having friends, pastors, teachers kind of give you the recipe. But when you're out there trying to build a bridge while you're trying to go over the water, that can be a scary thing, but you got to be okay with it. That's where the faith comes in at. All right. So the very first talk on this situation is changing your mind to get into real estate. You got to change your mind and to get into real estate. You got to deprive yourself. You got to tell yourself no a lot. And you can't think about what everybody else thinks when you're en route to. And the next episode, I'm going to give you more of a breakdown of how I went about getting all my finances together and how I went about meeting and setting up my team. Okay. And it's like I said at the beginning of the show, if you have not subscribed to your boy, go ahead and subscribe to your boy. And hopefully this does motivate you to do something different. And hopefully this does motivate you to do something hard. And then what's going to happen, yourself and your future self is going to applaud you and be happy you did it. All right. That's all I have for this episode, y'all. Tune in for next week's episode. I may interject and have a guest on next week's episode, but I will come back with a part two of this real estate portion. And I hope you guys gained a lot from this conversation today. And until our next conversation, it's your boy Ken. Peace.